This is going to be such a fun tutorial. So this set of pictures here was based on a workshop that we did this summer at a beach. And basically, I had a couple of people who had been through my classes and they were working really hard to get some cool shots at a beach, and they were really struggling. And I realized that really beach light, especially evening beach light, is really kind of just about the toughest kind of light that you're going to encounter. So I was really happy to see them just heading full tilt into the most difficult thing that they could do, and then not surprised that they were having trouble. And so I was at the beach one night and having fun with my family, and I thought, man, it would just be so cool to have a workshop and bring everybody out who wants to learn to struggle through this kind of light and figure out what they're doing. So this tutorial is kind of a recap of everything that we did at the beach that night. And we're going to go through a whole lot here. We're going to describe and figure out how to work with the difficult light. We're going to talk about some of the problems that tend to come up when you're dealing with this light. So even once you figure out how to work with it, what else is probably going to go wrong? We're going to talk about camera settings. We'll talk about some creativity and editing and composition and cropping and all kinds of stuff. And even some personal development and like personal growth kind of stuff, because there's no way you're out there doing photography in difficult situations and you're not growing. You're either giving up or you're growing as a person. All right, so let's get started by noticing and describing the kind of light that you're going to encounter at a beach. And I'm particularly thinking in the evening, as you can see when we go through most of these photos. And by the way, almost all of these photos are from my students that night. A bunch of them sent me photos. They sent me good photos, like great photos, and photos where things went wrong for them, so that I can, try and explain, here is why this photo looks good, or here is why this photo didn't quite work out. So I'm going to give them credit partway through. We're going to see whose photos were whose. For now, we're just going to get started into it. But you can see that basically we're there, not basically, we are there in the evening. To me, a beach is just no fun during the day. It's hot and the sun is harsh, and it, for my taste, it just doesn't look that great. I love going to the beach in the evening with my family, and you get completely different light, although it can be very tricky light. So you will notice that when you get to the beach, like for example, if we look at this first picture here, this kind of represents the kind of shot you're going to get. Actually, that, and let's just say this photo right beside it here, kind of represent the two extremes. And basically what's going on is the sun is getting low in the sky, and so there's a pretty good chance that whenever you take a picture, the sun is going to be in the photo. And the sun is a crazy bright light source. But not only is the sun there, but also the sun is creating this spotlight on the water, and you can see it really well in this shot here. It makes this spotlight right across the water. And this messes with your camera. Whether you're on auto mode, which nobody in my workshop was at on auto mode. I try and get people off auto mode on the first day, right from auto to aperture mode, so that they're in control of their aperture. But still, when you're in aperture mode, the camera is still making some decisions about the final photo. How bright is the photo going to be? What's it going to look like? And so when you feed your camera insane amounts of light, direct sunlight, along with this spotlight, the glare that the sun makes across the water, you're just feeding the camera so much light that the camera automatically wants to darken your photo a little bit to compensate for that light. But then when it darkens the photo, everything else in the photo gets really dark as well. Like, look at this boy here. He's just, you almost can't see him. He's almost a total silhouette. And this guy here is standing in the water, again, pretty much a total silhouette. Now that's great when you want a silhouette photo, but it's really tough when you want more detail, or you want to be able to see the detail. See, this photo is not so bad, and I'm going to show you why some of these photos worked out, like this photo here, and some of them, you know, didn't work out so well, like this photo here and, you know, this photo here. So what's going on? Well, like I said, there is so much light that your camera just wants to darken down the photo for you. And so you have to learn how to navigate this light, and you can still get a good picture, you know, such as this one right here. So how do they do it? Well, notice that whenever the sun or the glare or both of them are in your photo, you're going to naturally get a very dark photo. Now this photo here is the exception, where it's a very bright photo, but notice that when the photo gets bright enough to begin to see the people, and even in this photo, they're still kind of dark, aren't they? But even if you, this is what happens basically if you brighten the photo. So you say, well, I don't like this shot, so let's make it brighter. And later on, I'll tell you how they made it brighter. Without even really having to think about it, without having to understand their settings, they were able to make it brighter. But then you just get this photo that's all washed out and gross looking. So try not to get the light source, the sun or the glare, in the photo. And if you don't get the sun or the glare in the photo, you're going to have pictures that turn out more like this. Like there's light in this photo, and there's some sunlight shining on the boy. You can see it around his face, and you can see some of the light hitting the waves. But he's not right in that glare, and the sun itself is not in this photo. So now what the camera has to work with is a dark boy, some dark water, some bright water, the foamy waves, some brightness on his t-shirt, you know, the sun kind of hitting his face. And it says, oh, I can handle this because you didn't give me an insanely bright sun to have to try and navigate. Like even you can't look at the sun, right, without hurting your eyes. And so your camera can look at the sun and not be hurt, but it can't look at the sun and expose for the sun and still make the rest of the photo look normal. So that is the first thing that I showed people. Basically, when you're taking a picture, don't get the sun or the glare in the frame. Notice here in this photo, the photographer is taking a picture and they're shooting this way, and so whatever their final picture looked like, it probably looked something like this. But notice that the glare is all over here and the sun is like up here somewhere. So the sun is not going to be in her picture. The glare is not going to be in her picture, and so whatever that final photo looked like exactly probably would have been something similar to this. So that is the first big thing. Don't get that glare in your photo. Unless, of course, you are going for a silhouette shot, and that's totally fine. Like, I think that this shot is really cool. This is a really nice silhouette, and so now you know how to do it. Make sure that you get the glare in the photo. We'll talk about silhouettes in a minute when we get to some of the creative stuff. But notice in this photo here, where the family is well lit, the water behind, because the glare is there, it's way overexposed. But it's okay, it worked in this photo, I think. And okay, there hasn't been any editing done on this photo yet. Actually, I'm gonna leave it. I say there hasn't been any editing done. I'm actually not sure. The person may have done some editing. But look at this shot here that's almost a silhouette, like it's definitely getting towards silhouette. But doesn't it have such a cool feel to it? Yeah, it's a partial silhouette photo. The toddler in the front, if they were totally dark, it would be like a full silhouette. But this is definitely, like, I love the glare, and you know, I love the dark, moody feel of this photo. So again, if that's what you're going for, you want to go ahead and get the sun and get the glare, get the brightness in your photo, because it'll naturally drive down the brightness of the photo and make it a darker photo. So as long as you know what that glare is going to do for you, you can work with it. All right, now here are a couple of problems that happen even when you say, okay, I understand that I'm going to get some silhouette kind of shots. Like, I understand, don't get the glare in there, or I'll get silhouettes, that's fine. But then other problems happen, like this one here. The photo may look good at first, but when we zoom in, we're going to see that these people are not totally crisp. So notice, and This is 100%, but I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. And one person sent me a lot of photos like this. Alicia sent them in and said, okay, look at the photos. On the one hand, they're dark, and so she may not have realized why at the time, but this photo is dark because she has this really bright sky in her photo, and she caught a little bit of the glare on the left side. That is feeding your camera so much light that your camera says, let's darken this photo down. Now she is standing on the shady side or the shadow side of these people, and so that's why they are so dark looking. The camera just drove down the brightness of this photo so the sky could look normal, but then the shady side of the people ended up looking really dark. And notice that they're not quite in focus. Sorry, I zoomed in a little much there. Let's just go to 100%. There we go. And you can see that the people are not totally crisp. Like the waves in the background are in focus. And I find when a scene like this is backlit, meaning that that the light behind the people is really bright, then your camera will often have a bit of trouble focusing. She lined up, when you look through your viewfinder, I'm going to draw this out here. There's a certain number of dots in there. Every camera is a little bit different. Let's just, draw a whole bunch here. This is kind of what the average camera looks like inside. And then there is a mode that you can go on where you're going to choose which of these dots is going to do the focusing. So these are your focus dots. Whatever these dots are touching, that's what your camera is going to focus on. And you can choose one of these dots to be the thing that focuses. So you could choose this dot. Whatever that dot is touching in your picture, that's what's going to be in focus. And so if that was the dot, then the water in the background is going to be in focus. And if this was the dot, then the ground here would have been in focus. It's not in focus, so we know that that wasn't the focus dot. Probably it was either this dot or that dot. There's usually a dot in this right dead in the center as well. So it was probably one of those two dots, the dots touching the people, because I know Alicia knows about this, and that's what she was going for, and that's what's so puzzling. Why is this out of focus? And basically, when you get a backlit scene, when you get a scene where all the light is coming from in behind your subject and coming toward the camera, it makes it trickier for the camera to focus. I get out of focus photos like this all the time, and I am going to do another tutorial that looks at a program that can actually add some sharpness back into your photo, so that when you get a photo that you love so much, but the people are just a little out of focus, you can bring back some of that sharpness. Maybe not all of it, but you can improve it for sure. And this is going to be like a miracle in photography of the future, when they can 100% bring your photo back into focus. They will do it someday, and they are, I'm going to say they're 50% of the way there. And the last 50% may be really hard, but they're going to get it, and it's going to be amazing for photographers. So remember, 2 tips so far. Try and stay out of the glare unless you know what you're doing. You know the glare will produce a silhouette photo like this, or you know that you've got to bump up your exposure a little bit. We'll talk about that in a minute. And you're going to kind of overexpose the glare, but the people in your photo will look good. So, this is an example of trying to get the glare off to the side, out of the frame. And then, yes, your camera is going to produce some dark images like this when they're backlit, and it's going to be harder for your camera to focus when it's backlit. Take more pictures and just understand, keep refocusing, take a couple shots, refocus, and just understand that you are going to have out of focus shots. And wait, don't delete those photos. Wait for that day when they perfect the technology and you can bring back the focus in your photos. I have a set of photos from about 2 years ago that I just can't wait for the day, because they were important photos, and I will be able to fix them. And the day is coming. They're at least halfway there. Now, okay, so we talked about the 2 problems. So here's the thing. This is like doing a shoot like this is like being the main character or a hero in a movie or a story, and you have this goal. I want some really beautiful beach photos. And actually, you know what? This is like a good moment to give credit to everybody for sending in photos. So here are a number of photos that Alicia sent in. And you can see that there are some great photos. There are great photos by each person here. And so like the main character in a story, you have a goal, and the goal is to get some beautiful beach photos. And you envision them in your mind. You know what it is that you want, and it's just problem after problem, right? A story is no fun when the character says, I want to defuse the bomb, and in 15 seconds they defuse the bomb and the movie's over. Roll the credits. Like, that would be a dumb movie. You can't even get your popcorn finished by the time that story is over. We want to see the hero get pushed through as many difficult situations as possible and then succeed. We don't want them to have it easy. We don't want them to succeed right away. And I knew that everybody at this workshop was not going to succeed right away, that it was going to be difficult. However, they did end up with a lot of great photos, but they had to suffer through figuring out how to work the light. They had to suffer through misfocused photos, dark photos that they weren't expecting. So I think everybody did a great job with the photos that they sent in. We just went through everybody. So I don't know where you're watching this. I mean, probably on YouTube, but give them some kind comments and encouragement for the good work that they did. But just like a hero in a movie, it was tough. But then they succeeded, and they're going to try again, and they're going to keep perfecting what they did. All right, let's talk about camera settings for just a second, and let's talk about the 400 rule. This is something that I came up with because of all of the difficulty that people were going through with their camera settings. Okay, so the 400 rule is about ISO. If you want to learn about ISO, check out my videos on that. But probably if you've come to my classes, you understand ISO by now. Setting your ISO is just telling your camera how bright the light is that you're in. And so ISO 100, 200, and 400, that's telling your camera, I'm in really bright light. 100, and basically when you tell your camera the light that you're in, when you set the ISO, you're just making your camera sensor more or less sensitive to the light. So in bright sunlight, you don't want your camera sensor to be oversensitive to the light, because then it's just going to ruin your photos. It's going to overexpose them. And in dim light, you need to help your camera be more sensitive to the light so that it can see in the dark, like the way a cat can see in the dark. So the lower ISO numbers are for really bright light, and the higher ISO numbers are for dim light. Now, most people will tell you in bright sunlight that you should be, so let's draw a nice, oops, that's not what color the sun is, not on our planet. Let's draw a nice, pretty sun, and they will tell you should be on ISO 100. They might tell you you're allowed to go to 200, but never go to 400. And I'm telling you, ignore 100 and 200 and go straight to 400. And this is the 400 rule. Always in bright light, start with your ISO on 400. You can check out my video on the 400 rule for an explanation as to why this works and what the exceptions are. But basically, when we got to the beach, I told everybody, go ahead and set your ISO for 400. Some people, when I asked a pop quiz, some of them said 100 or 200, and somebody said 400. You can tell who's most recently been in my classes by who knew to go to 400. So go to 400, and this is just going to be pretty good for your camera. And again, check out the videos for the exceptions and all that kind of thing. So then, okay, they set their ISO, and then they were in aperture mode so that they could control the aperture. That's the F number, like f1.8 or f5.6 or f11. And basically, they wanted to control whether they were going to get a blurry background, or which is referred to as bokeh, or they were going to get more stuff in focus. They were going to have a greater depth of field. More stuff in the picture would be in focus from the foreground to the middle ground to the background. Now, I'm pretty sure most people shot with that lower ISO number, or sorry, lower aperture number, such as f1.8, f4, even f5.6, and because they wanted background blur. And then the final thing that we use to adjust our photos. See, when people started taking pictures, they're on ISO 400, and they snap a photo, and they get a shot like this, and they say, Matt, it's really dark. You don't know your camera settings. What went wrong here? I chose the low aperture number. I chose, well, this person actually didn't choose ISO 400. They chose 100. Still, that's okay. Totally fine that they did that. But they say, like I did what you said, and it didn't work. I got a picture like this. And so what I said is go to your plus minus button, which is called, it controls exposure compensation. I call it plus minus because when I'm trying to be creative, I don't want to be thinking of scientific terms like exposure compensation. I want monkey brain terms like plus minus, brighter, darker. If I can't grunt it, it's taking too much of my brain energy, and then I don't have energy left to be creative. Decision fatigue, camera setting fatigue, camera setting confusion leads to mental fatigue, mental fog that then blocks out your creativity, and you don't want to be doing that. So use the plus minus button. It's the button that's going to conserve brain energy. So you go to +1 or +2 on that exposure compensation button, the plus minus button. And again, I've got videos on this if you need an explanation. And you go to +1, maybe +2, and then boom, the next shot you take is brighter. Now maybe it's too bright. Maybe this person went to +3 and it's too bright. And so, this is 0, this is +3, and I'm just kind of making it up as I go here, looking at the picture, knowing full well kind of sort of what the person had to do to get this shot, because I've done so many beach photos. This is probably +2. Again, it's a bit of a guess, but that's probably 0-ish, probably 0, maybe 0, maybe +1, something like that. So anyways, those are the main camera settings that we were using. And if you've been around me long enough, you know those are the main camera settings I use for everything. Set the ISO according to the light you're in. Set your aperture according to the creative effect you want. Do you want a blurry background? Do you want that bokeh? Then go with a low aperture number, like 1.8, 5.6, something like that. And if you want more stuff in focus, the foreground, the middle ground, the background, it's like a deep landscape scene, go with a high number like f11 or f16, and then use plus or minus button. I use that same 3 combination of settings for newborns, for weddings, for families at beaches, for families in forests, shooting out of an airplane, in a mini golf, a dinosaur mini golf, on the Maid of the Mist, getting soaked at Niagara Falls. I don't care where I am. Those are the 3 settings I'm using 99% of the time. And that's what we used at the beach to obtain all these photos. Usually the plus minus button was the one you use the most. You get a shot like this, and you go, oh, dang, that's way too dark. And you go +1 or +2, and then boom, you get a nicer shot like that, or like this. Okay. Actually, let's talk. Here are more examples of misfocused photos where for some reason, the camera just didn't grab the focus properly. Maybe user error, maybe camera error. I'm going to say 3/4 of the time is camera error. And you just got to take more pictures. Just snap, 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 snap. If you come home with 40 pictures from the beach, you didn't get enough. If you come home with 400, you didn't get enough. If you come home with 4,000, now you're getting somewhere. And I understand. That sounds excessive. That sounds like too much. Do you want 40 pictures that are out of focus and 2 that are good? Or do you want like 4,000, that are out of focus and 200 that are good? I'm going to go with more photos, more likely to be in focus, because you're going off into the most difficult situation and the hardest situation for your camera to get right and to focus properly, and you're just going to have to take more pictures. So that's the big tip for these missed focus shots, is just shoot more. All right, and yeah, all kinds of misfocus stuff here. Here the camera probably just grabbed on to the splashes of water, and this is actually really cool. You know, I actually like misfocused photos, so I encourage you, if you can stomach it, to start a collection of misfocused photos. And I'm going to recommend that you put them in black and white. So I'm going to do a couple shots here. I'm going to convert them to black and white. They don't have to go to black and white, but I do find that there is something about them that I just love. A misfocused photo in black and white, I really like. So don't think of misfocused photos as a loss, but think of them maybe, you know, as a happy accident or something like that. So I'm just converting these quickly. You can see when it comes to black and white that I definitely like a higher contrast photo. That's why I'm driving those blacks down so dark. Now I bring up the shadows to get some detail back into the photo, but I brighten the whites and I darken the blacks to make that higher contrast. And I might take this and make it square because there's so much on the right side of the photo that I don't think is important to the photo. Now I think that looks cool. And then we'll do it with this photo here. So I just clicked black and white at the top right there. I drive down my blacks. I bring up my shadows. Maybe bring them up all the way. I bring up the whites a bit so we get a nice high contrast scene. Oops, bring those blacks down most of the way. Okay, let's look at these three shots because I really like these. So I bet you, whoops, I bet you didn't think that I was going to take your photos that didn't work out, your crap photos that I asked for, and then do something cool with them. I mean, I love this. The fact that they're all out of focus, again, I actually love that. It's a neat effect to me. It's a happy accident. So have fun with those accidents. All right, where are we here? We're going to move on to, okay, so again, okay, yeah, a bunch of dark photos again. We really already covered that, but there were a couple here that I should hone in on. So look at these two photos, almost the same, but why is one so dark and one is much brighter? Well, there's a couple reasons. Okay, the dark photo on the left. Notice, actually, let me back up and tell you why, what we were doing here. So I told everybody that when I do a family photo session on the beach, I show up to the beach, start the session maybe an hour and a half before sunset. But if we're right on the lake, like most of the pictures you've seen, it's way too bright an hour and a half before sunset. I kind of want to get to the beach like 45 minutes or a half an hour before sunset, because then the sun is in a position that I really like. So what I do first is I go to a different area of the park where I can put people in the shade and get the sunlight filtering through the trees, and I can get some really nice looking family photos with warm, soft, dramatic sunlight filtering through the trees, but not the harsh sunlight that it would be if we were right out in the open. So notice the first photo is really dark, and what happened here is, yes, the sun is filtering through the trees, but there was actually a big opening here where there are no leaves, and so it was as if we were just standing in broad sunlight. And when she took the picture, it ended up looking just like those really dark pictures on the beach, because you have this crazy intense light source and the camera says, well, I just got to darken this down. And so then this is the picture you get. It's like a silhouette, but it's like the worst possible silhouette because the background's dark, the person's dark. It's just no good. This didn't work. And so she turned to me and said, you know, it didn't work. What went wrong? And when I looked at the picture, I saw, okay, you got the sun in the picture. You need to move so that the sun is filtering through the trees. And so she moved over, and look where the sun is over here. It's now filtering through the trees. Yes, it's kind of bright, but it's filtered through the trees. It's probably only 10% or 20% as bright as it was over here. This is 100% brightness. This is, let's just call it 20% brightness as a guess. And then the other thing I told her is use your plus minus button and probably go to +1, maybe even +2. You got to take a picture and see how it looks, because of this sun back here, the camera is still going to be tempted to darken down your photo a bit. So you're still going to have to command the camera to go a little bit brighter than it wants to. And then we got a nicely exposed photo. And I'll show you some more of these photos in a minute when we get there. Let's move on to lens choice. How is your choice of lens? And now I'm thinking about wider angle lenses, and I'm thinking about telephoto zoom lenses, and how your photo is going to look with each of those lenses. So first, let me show you what I did here with my iPhone. This is the iPhone 12 Pro. I think it's a 12 Pro Max. And I bought this year instead of buying a second camera. I mean, I'm a professional photographer. I got to have 2 cameras with me. I didn't have the budget for 2 cameras. And so I basically said, I'm going to make do with one. I'm going to keep some of my older cameras as my backup cameras. And I'm going to get the iPhone. And the whole reason why is because iPhones, smartphones in general, have become so great as cameras. And this one comes with 3 lenses. And I can stick it in my pocket, not even notice it's there, and have 3 different lenses. And it's waterproof, or it's water resistant, so you can take it into the water and get it wet. And I thought, I just got to get this. I got to get this because it's going to come in so handy. And so look at how look at the 3 different lenses. The first lens is just kind of like a normal wide angle lens. It's not crazy wide. It's just normal wide angle. Then we have the ultra wide angle lens. And I didn't really change where I was standing. I stood in the same spot and used 3 different lenses. So look how this looks kind of normal. Like this is basically what I saw with my eye. This is like, whoa, crazy fisheye peripheral vision. And then this is the like 2 times lens. This is the telephoto lens. So if you're looking at the camera, this is 0.5, this is 1, and this is 2 times. So that's our telephoto lens. That's zoomed in basically. And look at how lens choice affects how the photo is going to look. Kind of normal, really dramatic and ultra wide and exaggerated, or very intimate, great portrait kind of idea. Cuts out everything, gives you tunnel vision, just zooms you into the person that you want to see. Okay, now let's look at everybody else's lens choices. So this again is the ultra wide angle lens. This is a photo I believe that my wife took. Pretty much positive my wife took this picture, and it's a really nice shot, really great. Notice how doesn't it feel like you're standing right there, almost as if you're like you're leaning forward and diving into the water. I love ultra wide angle lenses for the feel that they can bring to a photo. They can be tricky to use. They can exaggerate people's features and make them look weird, but with some practice you can get some really cool shots. Again, this was the ultra wide angle lens, and again, doesn't it feel like you're standing there in the water amongst these people? An ultra wide angle lens really pulls you there into the moment. It pulls the viewer into the moment. And this is just the normal wide angle lens. And isn't this cool how, now I forget for sure, I think this might have been Karen's photos, and there were 2 Karens. Karen B, I think it's hers, I could be wrong. But the sun had just disappeared, and isn't it really neat how you can actually still see it there, how you still see the light there? That is so cool. Again, just kind of normal wide angle. Now this is a 50mm lens, so it's nowhere near as wide. It's a little bit more like that telephoto or 2 times lens with my iPhone. And then this is becoming more and more telephoto. So we're at 65mm. If you don't understand that with lenses, I'll do a tutorial on that at some point. This is zoomed in almost all the way to 200mm. So this is like a real good zoom lens. And notice how far out there it puts you into the water. what was this one here? 85 millimeters, so a bit telephoto. And 85 millimeters again. Just absolutely wonderful as a portrait lens. I mean, this is a totally adorable shot. And notice, let's actually talk about this right now. Notice the bokeh. Notice how extremely out of focus the background is. So let's talk about the formula for getting a super out of focus background. Step one is to go with the low aperture number. So Samara had an aperture of f1.8. That's a really open aperture, and that is your first step. It doesn't matter what lens you're using, use the smallest aperture number you can, the smallest f number. That is the first bit of blur that you're going to get is from that. Okay, then there are 3 more steps. And the idea is you may not be able to use all these steps every time, but the more of them that you use, you kind of like double the amount of blur. So you start with some blur, and then each step will do times 2, times 2, times 2 the blur. And I'm just kind of making up the times 2 just to show you that it's going to get more and more and more blurry with each of these steps that you can add. So what are the steps? We've got the lowest f number. Then you want to zoom in with your lens as much as you can. Now, Samara was at 85 millimeters. That was as much as she could zoom with that lens. And for some of you, the most you'll be able to zoom might be 55 millimeters. Like if you have an 18 to 55 lens, you want to zoom all the way into 55. Or you might be able to zoom into 200, like one person, Mercedes, had a lens like that, or even 300. I think Karen had a lens like that. And you want to zoom in as much as you can. Now, again, it's as much as you can. You can't always zoom in all the way, right? Because maybe the person is too close to you, and if you zoom in all the way, it's just too close. So you zoom in as much as you can. And then, so let's just write down zoom, and then you want to get as close to you as you can to your subject. Get close. And again, it's as close as you can. I don't mean get right into their eyeball. Like Samara didn't get so close that all she got was an eyeball in the photo, but she got so close that there's only a little room on the left and a little room on the right. And that's good. She could have stood back way further like a lot of people do. Instead, she got close. She got as close as she wanted to. So this gets your blur going. This increases it more, and this increases it even more. And then the next thing is have your background as far away as possible. If you put somebody right up against a wall, the wall is not going to go out of focus. You know, it might a little bit, but it's not really going to go out of focus. But the water is so far in the background, and the sun is so far in the background that it goes really far out of focus. The further it is in the background, the more out of focus it will be in the photo. So let's write down background. So those are the 4 steps toward getting your background to go blurry. Open your aperture as much as you can. That means going with the lowest number, and then zoom as much as you are willing to, as much as you're able. Get as close as you can while still getting, the basic look that you want, and try and get the background as far back there as possible. That might mean moving the person away from the background a few feet, a few meters. In this case, it's like not a couple miles, but many hundreds of meters or yards away kind of thing. And actually, the full stint of the lake is miles across. So those are the 4 steps. All right, and then again, looking at these telephoto lenses, completely different feel than the wide lenses. And I love the look of a telephoto lens. I love the tunnel vision it gives. It just really locks in to one little part of the scene. And I just absolutely love that. I love this photo, even though you can't see her face. You see, toddlers are just doing so much. They just don't stop. It's just never-ending movement, and you see her feet splashing, you see somebody splashing in the background, you see a big wooden spoon there, and it's just so cool to see the hands and the feet of the toddler. I do not mind at all that this photo is cropped off in the way that it is. I think it's neat. And I think it's really fun to experiment with these kinds of crops. So stick those couple of creative principles in the back of your mind, that an out of focus, a misfocused photo can still look really cool. Try it in black and white and see what you think. And then go ahead and go for these wild looking crops where you crop right into the person. And notice, now I don't know if the same person took these two photos, but notice we have the beginning of a collection going. I could, if I had 4 shots, one of her face, one of her feet and hands, maybe a close-up of her hair, you know, the back of her head glowing in the sunlight, and something else. You know, that would be a really cool collection of photos to put on the wall. So another creative principle, think about creating collections of moments with your photos. So again, a couple more telephoto shots here. All right, now let's talk about backlight. So we need to consider a few things about light, because light is like the secret sauce in your photo. Most people do not understand how important of a role light makes in your photo. It's really the beauty element. It's really the thing that elevates, you know, a great photo in a good photo into great, a great photo into amazing. So think about a few things with light. Think about the direction of the light. And let's get this on here. So the direction that the light is coming from, and like the direction relative to the camera. So most of these photos are backlight, meaning the light is behind the subject. Your people are up here and the light is in the background and it's coming toward the camera. That's called backlight. And it's really cool because it will help you to illuminate things. It will make flowers glow. It will make splashes glow. It will make people glow. Like we'll find a more clear photo to illustrate that. But it's really going to make things glow. It's going to bring out texture. It's going to add drama to your photo. Now think about the temperature of light. Some light, like cloud cover, has a very cool feel to it, or cold feel to it. And golden hour light is, of course, very warm, very golden. And so you've got the direction of the light. You've got the temperature of the light. You've got whether the light is soft or whether the light is harsh. And afternoon sun is very harsh. Late evening sun, just about sunset, it begins to get very soft. So all of those things come together. The intensity of the light, how bright is it? They all come together to ruin your photo or make your photo awesome if you know what you're doing. And that's what we were doing at the beach, was figuring out what to do with this light, what to do with light when it's too harsh, what to do with golden light, what to do with soft light. So let's look at some examples here. I want to point out, there's got to be a really good edge light example. I know I saw lots of examples and I probably just moved the photos to somewhere else. Okay, one is not getting one popping out right away. Maybe they're at the end. Anyways, I'll come back to edge light and show you how that works. All right, so before I talked about how we moved people into the shade of trees and got the light filtering through the trees. So this is what the scene looked like. You can see the kids on the hill. You can see where the photographers are. And then you can see, let's put them side by side so you can see exactly what's going on. So there's where the photographers are, there's where the kids are on the hill. Notice even the photographers are basically in the shade, but we're making sure that we can see the sun. So notice how the sun is not coming through full blast. It's just it's filtering through the leaves. Most of that sun is blocked out and it's filtering through the leaves, and it's giving that nice warm glow to the photo. and it's helping us to have a nice bright photo rather than a dark silhouetted photo. And then we were getting pictures like this. And I wish that the sun was a little bit lower down. I really wish that the sun, and if we had waited, it would have been lower. I really wish the sun was kind of in here, and then I would have cropped the picture something like that. But still, it's pretty cool where it is. And by the way, very soon, I'm going to show you how to edit photos so that you can begin to rescue the parts of the photo that actually went way too bright or way too dark. There's at least one miracle photo in here that I can't wait to show you. And the power of shooting in RAW, for those of you who don't shoot RAW. Notice this photo here. It's really nice. You got the sun poking out. But then notice what happens when the sun begins to overlap with people's heads or faces. Look at how her head just melts away there. And I knew in the moment, what I was capturing, and I thought this is going to be really good for the tutorial. So you want to keep the sun away from people's faces. You want it coming through the trees or over a hill. You don't want it poking out through their body parts. Now we can begin, this is just really quick, we can begin to notice edge light here. Notice the light tracing the top of her arm on both sides. You can even see it at the top of her leg there. That's edge light. It's bright light. It's a highlight that's lighting up the edge of your subject. We'll see that a little bit more later. It really helps them to pop out from the background, especially a dark background. It can be really, really nice in photos. Let's get to some creative things here. So I want to talk about getting a series of 3, which I already began to talk about a little bit, and about framing, like a frame within a frame, and capturing gestures. So I think this is our 3 photos here. So this is working toward a series of 3 photos. Notice that they're all different. There's some similarities. There's a girl in each photo. There's a sun in each photo. She's sitting in one. She's standing in a couple of them. 2 of them are kind of like full-length shots. One of them is a portrait, basically. One of them's a silhouette. The other 2 aren't. One of them has some crazy lens flare, and the other 2 not so much. So a series of 3 photos is just amazing. It's just so cool to get a great series of 3. But there needs to be difference between the photos. Like if the photos are just identical, same light, same background, same look, same feel, and then it's just repetitive. Now, they could be identical, except there's a different action in each photo, for example. Or they, so if the photos are going to be very similar, there's got to be one thing in each photo that really stands out as different, a different action going on or something. But go for as many differences in the photos. And yet, if they're too different, then they don't belong together, right? So what unifies these photos? Well, it's the same girl in every photo. It's the same sun in every photo, the same time of day in every photo. There's water in 2 of the photos. 2 of the photos are full-length shots. There's a lot of things that unify this. But then I've already pointed out some of the things that are different about these photos. So you want unity and diversity within the collection of 3, and as much of that, it's like you want to ramp up the amount of unity and the amount of diversity. And that may sound like a contradiction. Like getting a lot of unity, doesn't that mean that there's no diversity? Or getting a lot of diversity, doesn't that mean that there's no unity? Certainly feels like that in culture, but that's because we do it wrong. If you work hard and work carefully, you can get intense unity between the photos and intense diversity, and you can get a really cool set of 3 photos. I recommend 3 because it's doable. 2 is not enough. 4 begins to get too much, and I think 3 is kind of perfect. All right, now notice the placement of objects in this photo here. We basically, I love the feel of this photo, and we've basically got a triangle here, right? We got 3 main things. We have, and here we're going to talk about some contrast. So we have 2, let's change the color here. We have 2 dark objects and 1 bright object. So we have some contrast there. And then, of course, we have other contrast in the photo. Let's go with green. And we have the warm tones up here. And actually, we also have some cool tones, don't we? Because we have some of the purples, right? And then we have the cool tones down here, but there are little splashes of warmth. So we have some really cool contrast in this photo, and we have this dynamic shape, the triangle shape, that just leaves you basically, it leaves your eye roaming, not in a circle, literally in a triangle, but you just, well, kind of a circle, but you sort of, just go around and around and around looking at these three things, and it's really cool. I love that. Play around with the main objects. Go for simplicity. Try and get, you usually need at least two objects. One object in a photo is just too simple. It's great, but there's nothing that it's playing off of, so it's totally fine if you want to do that. But if you want to play in your photos, get at least two objects in your photo, and a third one, especially if the third one is different, even if all three of them are different, as long as it's a simple photo and they kind of play off of each other like this photo does. And this is our miracle photo. We're going to take a look at it in a second. Okay, this shot is a little bit misfocused. Again, I thought it'd be really cool in black and white, and I like that in black and white. This is a frame within a frame. So the main frame is, of course, the rectangle photo, and the frame within the frame is these branches that frame the children in the photo. So frames are really cool, really fun, creative thing to work with. Also, gesture. I love, again, even though this photo is out of focus, I did not edit this photo. Whoever sent it, I forget who sent it. It might have been Karen. I think it was Karen. And she had converted it to black and white. I think this is an amazing photo, even though it's a little bit out of focus. I have a film camera that I've been shooting and developing black and white film, and I haven't figured out what the problem is, but all my photos are coming out of focus, and there's a variety of reasons why that might be, but I kind of like it. I don't mind it, and I have this thing for out of focus black and white photos. So I think great job. And again, really cool gesture here. Even the fact that one person is falling and splashing in the water, just a really cool capture here. All right, let's go back up to our miracle photo. And so let's talk about RAW versus JPEG. And so every single camera, even your phone, when it snaps a picture, it's this great big digital file filled, packed with information about your photo, color and brightness and everything. And it's this massive file, and it takes up so much space, and it's so hard for computer programs to read it. And so what happens is, in the blink of an eye, your camera or your phone processes the photo, kind of edits the photo for you, and turns it into a JPEG, which is just kind of like the universal picture form. That's what most pictures are, is JPEGs. Now, when it becomes a JPEG, it throws away all the information that it didn't use. All it keeps is the information that becomes your JPEG photo. All the rest of it is thrown away. Most of the information is thrown away. Now, in this photo here, notice what went wrong. The background is overexposed, isn't it? The background is pure white. The other photos don't look like this, do they? The other photos look like sunsets. This photo was overexposed. Well, guess what is hidden in this photo? See, we have the raw photo. Lindsay sent me the raw photo. She's shooting raw. She had heard about it, so she was shooting raw. She came to a camera setting class. I told her, keep shooting raw if you know what you're doing. And it's really going to help you, especially when you're first learning photography, because you're going to get so many overexposed photos. Now, watch what is going to happen. Now, I'm telling you, this is not possible with a JPEG photo. With a JPEG photo, the information is lost. Okay, but guess what's hiding in this photo? We're going to start to edit it, and you're going to start to see the sky in the background begin to appear. Now, it's not as colorful as the other part of the sky, just because we were beginning to, this was the second night. This workshop was actually over 2 nights, and we were beginning to get some cloud color that hadn't turned color yet. But look at that, we can actually see that there's sky back there. It was there all along, it was just hidden, and we couldn't see it. And if it had been the JPEG photo, it would have been lost. It would have just been white. And if we tried to edit it, it would have just turned like this gross gray color. We would not have got all of this color or all of this detail back in the sky. Now here's the problem. In order to get the sky detail back, we had to really darken the photo, didn't we? So let's see if there's something else that we can do to get that sky back. So first of all, here's where we started. And then I darkened the overall exposure of the photo a bit. Now I'm going to compensate for that darkness by bringing some of our shadows back up to a better brightness. They got a little bit brighter there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to use this thing called a graduated filter. And it's going to, well, watch, it's going to be really extreme at first. When I drag this filter across the photo, it darkens everything on one side of the filter and everything on the other side is still bright. It's called graduated because the longer I drag it, the more gradual the darkening process becomes. And so what I'm going to do is straighten this out and notice how I've been able to darken the sky with this. Now I've been way too dramatic. I'm going to decrease this, but look at how I've been able to darken the sky without really darkening the waves. So let's actually bring that back. I'm going to get rid of it. We're kind of resetting it here. I'm going to see what happens if I just darken the highlights. Yeah, the sky gets a little bit darker. Then let's just darken the exposure a little bit. So now we have our sky back. We've rescued our sky. This is why you should be shooting raw. And I'm actually going to bring a bit of the brightness of this photo back up because I think I just, I darkened it more than I needed to. This is beginning to look pretty natural. I'm going to darken the blacks just to add a little contrast and pop to this photo. And now I think, yeah, so see how the photo is a little bit fuzzy? Hang on to this photo, Lindsay, because there is going to be some miracle technology that really helps you to pull at least some of the focus back into this photo. Maybe not all of it, but some of it. So what happened is, let me talk about shutter speed for a second. So just a quick review. I told everybody to be in ISO 400. Now, it might be getting dark enough at this point that you should bump up to like ISO 800 because as you head into sunset, it is getting darker. So by this time of night, you should bump up to ISO 800. But she was doing exactly what I told her to do. Her aperture was probably open just about as much as it could be, I think. And so that's letting in lots of light. Now, her shutter speed is 1/250th of a second. I'm not going to get all into shutter speed here, but that's basically a slower shutter speed. It's starting to get a little slow, and it's going to be hard to capture the action. So now, here's the weird thing, though. I'm going to tell Lindsay her shutter speed should be faster, and she's going to say, well, you never taught me how to control the shutter speed. And that's right, because I don't want to overwhelm you with every single thing you could possibly learn in photography in one class. That's why we do these workshops, is to take you into the tricky situations where you learn a little bit more. How are you going to make the shutter speed go faster if you have no control over it? Well, what you need to do is feed the camera more light. Get more light into the camera, and then your shutter speed is naturally going to go quicker, and it's going to freeze the action. How do you feed the camera more light? Well, I already told you how to do it. Bump your ISO up to 800. Make the camera more sensitive to the light, and then it'll go, whoa, there's a lot of light here, it's really bright, and it's going to go with a faster shutter speed to try and block out some of that light, but the faster shutter speed is going to freeze the action. Fast shutter speed freezes action. Feed the camera more light. So just remember that. Remember all those F's. Remember that when your photo starts to get fuzzy from movement, that you need to feed the camera more light, and feeding it more light will make your shutter speed go faster and freeze the action rather than giving you fuzzy movement in your photo. And the quickest way to feed it more light is to just up the ISO to higher than what you're on already. But this is still a cool shot. And you know what, Lindsay? I think that the little bit of blur that you have in this photo is not so bad. Because again, I love photos, and this is just my personal taste, but I love photos that have a tiny bit of motion blur. Like her hands aren't a total blur, but there's enough blur to give you the feeling of motion, even though she's not moving. Or even though she's suspended or frozen in mid-air. It gives us a feeling, like this isn't a video, but it gives us a feeling of a video. Now, I'm curious about black and white. I don't know that this is the best black and white photo or the best photo for black and white, but I thought I'd just try it anyways. You know, give it a real, I think if you give it a real punchy, kind of high contrast look, I think it looks kind of neat, but it's probably better in color. I think to my mind, it makes more sense in color. I can kind of interpret it better. And notice the echoes of the pinks and blues in the sky. That's really cool. You should always dress your kids according to the sunset colors. Absolutely. All right, now that pretty much takes us to the end of this tutorial. I mean, I'll just wander through some of these photos here and see if anything jumps out. Again, down here, notice the feel of the different people spread out through this photo, how you kind of get this squarish kind of shape here. Four corners is really neat, and you get the depth in this photo thanks to having a few different people in there. Okay, so what has this beach workshop taught us? So without a doubt, it has shown us that there is a lot of technical problem solving when you go out to do photography. It's not all going to be easy. It's not as easy as Pinterest. It's not as easy and beautiful and carefree as Pinterest makes it look or Instagram makes it look. You need a lot of technical problem solving. I mean, I get myself into crazy situations, you know, crazy light on beaches, crazy dim light in houses, just all kinds of stuff that I have to work my way through. You need to learn your camera settings. You need to learn what your camera is going to do in different situations. You need the technical problem solving skills. And the great thing is, once you get them and once you understand how your camera works, you're basically set. You know, you just encounter different versions of the same problem. Too much light, too little light, light coming from the wrong direction, stuff like that, and you figure out how to deal with it. And you know, once you do, that problem solving becomes pretty intuitive, and it's just there. It's this skill that you pull out, and it frees your mind once you understand this stuff to explore and be creative and be playful and have fun, and know that, you know, half the battle is the plus minus button. Half the battle is, oh, photos are looking dark for some reason, make them brighter next time. Oh, photos are looking too bright, make them darker. You know, it's that plus minus button that just frees you up to be taking the creative shots you want. You set your aperture for whatever the creative background blur effect you want, and you set your ISO, and then you plus minus your way through and play your way through a session, and you just let the creative part of you thrive because you figured out all that technical stuff and you got it behind you. And then you come home and you need to consolidate. You need to bring out your the critic. You need to bring out the judge, and you need to be able to go through your photos. You don't have to be mean to yourself. Like, this is really hard for perfectionists because they expected every photo to be perfect. They barely know what they're doing, and you know, and they get discouraged. Or some people they're not perfectionists, but they just beat themselves up. And you need to be able to sort through your photos and notice what went wrong, and come up with a strategy for improving next time. You can always reach out to me for help, but more importantly, when you get your good photos separated, you know, like I did, I picked through everybody's photos. I mean, I chose photos for the sake of the presentation, but people, you know, they really sent me a lot of great photos, and I'm thankful for the bad photos they sent because it helped us to, you know, see what a misfocused photo looks like and the problems there. But you need to pull out the critic and look at your photos and start to create collections, like I said with the series of 3, you know. And this is going to do a couple things. First of all, it's going to make your photos more interesting, your collections of photos more interesting, if you can weed out the bad ones and keep just your strongest ones and just show people a few photos, you know, post a couple of the great ones on Instagram. But also, especially, you know, when you're trying to create a series of 3, it's going to bring to mind so many other things you could have done in the moment And guess what you're going to do next time you're out there? You're going to do some of those things. You're going to remember those things. And you're going to come home with a different collection of photos. And you're going to sort through them. And you're going to judge them. You're going to critique them. You're going to figure out what you could have done better. You're going to figure out what you did really well. And you do this a few times, and you know what's going to happen. You're going to start to see patterns over all your sessions. And you're going to start to create a series of 3, not just from tonight's photos, but photos from 6 months ago, photos from today, and photos from 6 months from now. I have a series of photos I'm working on that has spanned years and years it has taken me to make this collection of photos. And it was an accident, but it got started as an accident, but it was by reviewing my photos, bringing out the judge and saying, okay, judge, okay, so first of all, the technician has to be on standby to diagnose what went wrong in some of your photos. But the technician basically gets to go on break now, right? The technician is there during the session to help make sure photos are turning out, but it's mostly the creative person. And the creative person brings home the photos and sits them in front of the judge and says, okay, judge, you go through these now, and you tell me what went well and what didn't. And the judge is going to do that. And of course, you're the one playing all 3 of those. And you will get good at, don't be hard on yourself, but get good at looking at what you did well, what you didn't do well, and what you can do to improve next time, and how you can start to spot patterns across all your photos. If perfectionism is okay, but not if it takes you down, not if it discourages you. What you need really is persistence. Go ahead and set high standards. Set them as high as you want, but have persistence to keep pursuing what's difficult, to go back to the beach over and over, to keep going back to the beach like the people who inspired this workshop, and keep bugging your photography teacher until he finally just says, let's go have a workshop together and let's go have some fun on the beach. Be persistent with your photography and with improving, and have lots of fun with it, and just hope that you learn something every time, and you're going to grow through your experience. It is impossible for you to go out there and work hard and persist and not grow. You can't do that. You can't work hard and persist and not grow. You have to grow. You have to learn. That's just the way it works. So that finishes our beach photo tutorial here. Go out there, jump in the water, get your camera wet if it's a waterproof camera. That's why I bought the iPhone. And go out there and have some fun, make some silhouettes, get some sand between your toes, make some mistakes, learn to fix the mistakes, use your highlight slider, shoot in RAW, take those misfocused photos and turn them into black and white. Problem solve, problem solve, problem solve. Try to use, experiment with different lenses, with different situations. Find a friend you can photograph, find a friend you can bring with you to take pictures, and persist and grow.